Alright everyone, so today I'm going to show you how to repair your good old school NES. You may recall a while back I did a review on my show Retro Davo about, I think it was my episode Nintendo Power, and I said both my NES and my Super NES didn't work. Well, they still don't work. But today we're going to change that because I'm going to show you how to fix your NES. So, first of all, let me show you what I mean. I have the NES hooked up to the television, and watch, if I push. First, let's put a game in there. About good old Super Mario Brothers. Put the game in. Turn the power on. And this happens. Yeah, pretty bad, huh? And you also may notice the light is blinking. That is not good. So, we're going to open up the NES, and I'll show you what we're going to do. Alright, so, we got our NES here. So, the things you will need: a Phillips head screwdriver, and a 72-pin connector. You can find these. I got mine for about $10, which is a little ridiculous considering some places sell these for less, but oh well, this is the first one I've bought, so oh well, and I'm really looking forward to fixing this thing. So, the first thing we need to do is unscrew it. So, let's do that. Alright, so I took those 6 screws out. So now, what you do is open it up. You can see the game cartridge in there. So, now what we need to do is we need to remove the heat shield ever so carefully. So, let's do that real quick. Okay, so now that I've got all of those screws undone, let me tell you, there were quite a bit of them. That was actually harder than I thought it was going to be. So now, what you do is you actually just gently remove the heat shield. And voila! There is the inside of a Nintendo. Old school. I think we can get rid of, at this point, we can get rid of Mario here. There we go. Now, what you're staring at right now is why we need to replace the pin connector. This mechanism, while it's cool that you load the game and then press down, is the fatal flaw in this design of a machine. Because it actually, these pins that you see down here, or there you go, see these pins? The pins in the pin connector get bent over time. And as these things age, they're more prone to being bent. Sometimes it just needs to be cleaned, but I think mine, which I believe is a temporary repair because I'm going to get a special item, but never mind that for right now. Mine just, you know, I couldn't get it to work anymore, so I decided, okay, I'll try to replace the pin connector. So, what we need to do now is we need to remove the loading tray as well as the pin connector. So let's go ahead and remove the loading tray. Alright, so I removed the screws from the loading tray, but just one more thing, there's 2 more screws we have to remove, but I want you guys in case you're interested in doing this for yourselves one day. There's two very vital screws that you need to remember. These two silver screws are special screws that only go in these two spots. They are longer than the rest of the screws, so if you're going to do this, just make sure to remember that. So, let's remove these last two screws. And trust me, guys, this is not only my first time doing it, but this is actually a lot trickier than I'm making it seem. So, just beware of that. And one more here. One more. Come on. There we go. Now we can remove the loading tray. Come on. Jeez. Ah, this thing's a pain. Ah, there we go. The fatal flaw in an NES. Such a simple piece, but such a fatal flaw. So, now it's time to remove the pin connector and the motherboard. So let's do that. So let's do the motherboard first. So, in order to remove the motherboard, there's two other screws that are really hard to get to that we need to remove. You'll notice I've already started this one, but the other one that's really hard to get to is right there. So, let's remove those and replace let's get at those screws. Okay, so now that we've taken those two screws out, we can take out the brains of the NES, which is this, the motherboard. So, you see these two component cable inputs right here? All you're going to want to do is push in on that. Very gently bring those up. And I want to ever so slightly remove the second heat shield. Ever so gently. But you're not going to want to take them apart. This is a very delicate process. So, now what we want to get at is this thing. Just ever so gently. It's this thing, folks. The 72 pin connector. Ever so gently. Just come on. Ooh, be careful. There we go. There it is. The 72 pin connector. Oh boy. What a mess. Now, hopefully, I can remember how it goes. I believe it went like this, yes. So, now what we're going to do is, even though I'm going to keep this, people, because there's hope for this thing, I'm going to keep it, see what's wrong with it. But for now, we're going to replace it, actually, with the new 72-pin connector. Now, yes, it's in a box, so let's open it. Now, this is my first time doing this, folks, so I had to watch a lot of other YouTube videos to do this correctly, and I'm, quite frankly, even though I'm making a guide for you, I'm kind of scared that I'm doing this. I could be breaking my NES, and guys, only do this if you absolutely have to. If you can resolve to cleaning, which I couldn't, please resolve to cleaning. So, here they are side by side. Now, it's weird. I can barely make out that the old 72-pin connector, which is this one, is ever so slightly bigger. Maybe it's just because it's stretched out more. I don't know, but we're going to replace it with this one. Now, these 72-pin connectors, I think, are made by most likely a group that is dedicated to restoring classic consoles to keep retro gaming alive, I bet. So anyways, we can get it on there just like that. Okay, so let's very gently put it back in. Very gently. And I mean very gently. Ooh. Let's see. What's going on in here? Alright, so, why is it not cooperating? Oh, I see. Wires are getting in the way. There we go. Let's make sure that we're good. Okay. Now we're ready to start putting it back together. So, let's put the screws back in. Okay. So, now that we got the motherboard back attached, as well as the 72-pin connector, it's time to put the tray, the loading tray, back on. So, let's do it. Alright, so, I got the loading tray. Now this part can be a bit of a bitch. So, let's get it in here. If I can remember how we frickin' did this. There we go. That's it. So, let's screw this in. And then we'll put the heat shield on. Okay, so now that we got the tray back on, it's time, and it's a good thing that it stays down, because if the screws are too tight, by the way, you get this effect that it's something like, you know, where it won't stay down. So you don't want the screws too tight, but you don't want them too loose either. So Now it's time to put the heat shield back on. So let's quickly do that. Alright, so we got the heat shield back on. We got the tray in. We got the new pin connector in. So we got everything back in. So, what do you say? Let's put the top back on the NES. And let's put the screws in. So, I got all the screws back in. So, it's time to plug this bad boy in and see if it made a difference after all that hard work. So, let's get this boy hooked up. Alright, so we've got our NES all hooked up. Now I will have you guys know that hooking up an NES is today different than when it was back in the day. Back in the day we used RF cables, and believe me, it sucked because the TV would basically give you a seizure. It would flash so much. But the NES had something special that not a lot of TVs had built in yet at the time, which was composite cables. And I know composite are like nothing today, but believe me guys, if you're retro gaming, they are a godsend. So just know that next time you see composite on a system. So I've got my TV on. So let's open up this bad boy. I got a controller plugged in. Let's put Super Mario Brothers back in. Ooh, that's tight. And that's a tight fit. Anyways, push it down. And voila! Yeah. The NES is working again. Because look, I push down. And voila! It works again. So, let's turn that off. So I hope you enjoyed this video. And join me next time when I repair the Super Nintendo. Take it easy, fellas. Hope you enjoyed the beginning of this new series, Retro Repair.